Okay, guys, so we are starting our multiplying and dividing fractions portion of the fractions unit. And so today you have two skills to do. First one is multiplying fractions and whole numbers, and the second is just multiplying fractions. So let's talk about multiplying fractions and whole numbers. So it has to be. So let's go through and do our practice problems. Now, like we've talked about before, it's always easier to simplify first and then multiply. So, what I would say to you is that if you have two numbers that are diagonal from one another, like the 2 and the 12, right? They're diagonal. Well, 2 goes into 12. So, I would cancel that first before you start multiplying. Now, do you have to do that? No. You could absolutely multiply the 2 times the 5, and you get 10, and the denominator is 12. But of course, when you put that into it's not going to tell you that you got it right because it's not simplified. So I would have to divide each of those by 2, and I would get 5 over 6. Okay? Well, let me do that problem again, and instead this time, so we have 2, let's make it a 2 over 1, 5 over 12. You can always cross cancel. So any number that can go into numbers that are diagonal from one another. 1 and 5, 1's as simplified as you can get, so you're just going to leave that alone. But the 2 can go into 12. So 2 goes into 2 once and goes into 12 6 times. Now you can multiply. So 1 times 5 is 5, and 1 times 6 is 6. So you end up with the same number, the same answer, but you just simplified first in the second method than you did in the first method. Okay. All right, next one. So we have 5 times 3 halves. Now, 2 can't go into 5 evenly, so I know I can't simplify that. So now you're just straight multiplying. So 5 times 3 is 15, and our denominator is 2. When you put that into you do not have to change that to a mixed number. You can just leave that as an improper fraction, and that's totally fine. Okay, next one. Again, look at your diagonals and see if they have anything in common with each other. So 6 and 7, well, 6 can't go into 7 evenly. So again, we're just going to multiply. So 7 times 7 is 49, and our denominator is 6. Okay? Okay, second kind of problem that you're going to have in this skill. Oh, let's do this one first. Okay, so again, 5 can't go into 6 evenly, so you're just going to multiply. And 6 times 8 is 48, and our denominator is 5. Okay. The other kind of problems that you're going to have in this skill is you're going to have to choose numbers that equal 5 times 1/3. So you may have different options. So sometimes 5 times 1/3, remember that multiplication is another way of doing adding, just quicker, right? So 5 times 1/3 could be 1/3 plus 1/3 5 times, right? That could be one way. Or you could have 5 times 1 is 5, right? Over 3. Let's see, what else? And if they just flipped it around, you could have 1/3 times 5. So on your skill, it's going to give you different options, and you need to choose the one that's equivalent. Okay? So same thing for this. You could have 1/8 added to itself 5 times. Right? Or you could have 5/8. So on that skill, that if you get that type of question, it's just going to give you a couple of different options. Okay? All right. Your second skill that you're doing today is just multiplying fractions. And all you're doing is multiplying numerators together and denominators together. Now, again, I would advise that if there's anything you can cross cancel first, I would do that. Now, there's a difference between cross canceling and cross multiplying. Cross canceling is the exact opposite of cross multiplying. You're trying to find a number that goes into both of those numbers. Well, 3 can't go into 4 evenly either direction. So now you're just straight multiplying. So 3 times 3 is 9, and 4 times 4 is 16. They don't have a common factor, so that's your answer. Okay, on this skill, you just need to be careful about making sure that you simplify if you need to. Okay, so check all your diagonals first. Can 3 go into 4 evenly? No. Can 1 go into 5 evenly? Yes, it can, but we can't simplify it any farther than that. So now we're just going to multiply. So 3 times 1 is 3, and 5 times 4 is 20. Okay, and last practice problem. Now we're going to check our diagonals again. Well, 2 and 6. Well, I know that 2 can go into 6, and 2 can go obviously go into 2. So I'm going to cancel those out. So 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 6 3 times. It's much easier for me to cancel first and then multiply. You don't have to. I'm going to do it again down here and show you that you don't have to, but you're going to have to simplify later, which is a little bit more of a struggle than if you just do it at the beginning. If you simplify at the beginning, you don't have to remember to do it at the end. It's much easier. Okay? So then 1 times 1 is 1, and 5 times 3 is 15. If we do it down here, we've got 2 times 1 is 2, and 5 times 6 is 30. But because those both end in even numbers, I know that that's not quite simplified. And because they're both even, I know I can divide both by 2. And so 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 30 divided by 2 is 15. Okay, you can choose whichever method that you want, as long as you get it right. See you soon. Let's see. Let's try 5. Oh, I don't want yellow. Let's just use. Okay, 5 times 1/4. So normally what you need to do is you need to have both in fractions or both in whole numbers. Well, we clearly can't turn 1/4 into a whole number, but we can turn 5 into a fraction by putting it over a 1, right? So if you need that just to be consistent, you can easily do that and put any whole number over 1. That keeps it the same value. When you multiply fractions, you're just multiplying top to top and bottom to bottom, like we talked about in the notes. So top to top and bottom to bottom. So 5 times 1 is 5, and 1 times 4 is 4. Now, what happens, because if you have a whole number times a fraction, all you're really doing, let's just shorten that step. You don't even need to put it over a 1. You're just multiplying the whole number times the numerator and then putting it over the denominator. So 3 times 2 is 6, and the denominator is 7. Okay? Super easy. Don't make